Okay, besties.
Welcome to class.
It's the 2023 offseason, and the LEC roster situation is messy.
Yes, 2022 was a year of slaying for Koi, but they were caught lacking at Worlds. They replaced Odawamne with Shigenda, which is very rude. Winter did not look great for them, and some of the players' parents maybe got a little toxic here and there. Anyways, I think they might be in their flop era.
Ooh, big time. Mad Lions DM'd Hillisang, and we're all like, hey, bestie, I know your last team was like seriously problematic. Want to come play for us? And good on them. They shot their shot. So Hilly agreed and said, Fnatic and I, we are never getting back together. Like, ever.
Well, SK, they surprised everyone, and I respect the hustle. They're new players. They wanted to be excluded from this SK sucks narrative. They finished 4th in spring, and it's doing something with all the rookies for me.
And good on them for upcycling old talent. Meanwhile, Fnatic came crawling back into this weird situationship with Reckless. They ignored all the red flags. Like, he literally left you for your worst enemy. Toxic! Why are you so obsessed with him, Fnatic?
Crazy. Fnatic, they didn't want the smoke after finishing 9th, so they started pointing fingers. Rux and Wonder got benched, and everyone was like, dramatic. Oof. Well, you just benched Wonder. Their new top Oscar Rinnan has just been getting unalived over and over again in game. It is rough out there for the rookie.
BDS caught a lot of fade with their rookies last year too, but then they unveiled a roster that was giving LFL super team. They ended up serving on the Rift and with their team rivals. They even had a fan booth.
Yeah, say less. I'm literally a super fan now. They're the best.
Oh, they're not that good.
They're good. Can you stop gaslighting me?
No, just objectively, I mean, they're not like
gatekeeping is so not cool.
No, I'm not gatekeeping. I'm not.
Hot girls don't gatekeep.
Okay, well then Astralis aren't hot girls then, because Fnatic and XL were down horrific for top 8, and Astralis wouldn't let them in. Finn was all like, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. And then he and Astralis slayed everyone during their miracle run.
Everyone. XL, they really thought they were doing something with this roster, but the only thing they were doing was getting 10th place. Unsubscribe.
G2 reunited BFFs Hansam and Mickey X in the bot lane and popped off. Hans just kept picking Draven and was literally securing the bag every time he got a kill. Yike was ratioing veteran junglers, and Caps was flexing in-game and in draft. They got that dub at Winter Finals 3-0.
Yeah, and then after Jankos, he got dropped from G2, and this team Heretics pulls up and are like, don't worry, we got you, bro. And they totally sign him. Jankos, he spent years on G2 being second fiddle, a sidekick, but right now, he's really the main character as he was in Winter.
That's so true, bestie. Now, Vitality were seriously pressed after failing last year with the super team, and then out of pocket, they get voted jungle for him. Like, seriously, he was just in their pocket. He was being chilling in Europe for most of last year, and then Photon joined as a top laner, and compared to him, every other top laner in the league was caught lacking.
Yeah, they finished best of ones in first place, but they clearly girl bossed a little too close to the sun. They fluked out of groups, but they immediately dropped stacks of cash to sign Upset, who'd been sitting on Fnatic's bench all winter. Like, make it make sense, Fnatic. Talk about fumbling the bag.
So anyways, Vitality and G2 are like totally our best teams now, and they play each other tomorrow in our match of the week.
Any questions?
I think it's a surprise of nobody. My matchup of the week, my favorite matchup is
G2 versus Vitality.
G2 versus Vitality.
G2 versus Vitality.
G2 versus Vitality. There's just too many stars in this matchup to be excited about for it to be any other game.
Vitality coming in with the best start they could have imagined with their new roster.
The AD carry rivalry returns after a year hiatus with Hansama piecing out to NA. Now he's back, upset after Winter Split absent. He's on the Rift 2 and looking fantastic after his first couple of games here with Vitality.
Last split, Hansama was by far the best AD carry we had in the league, but back then Upset wasn't there. Now he is, and I want to see these two giants clash it out on the Rift.
You got Yike going against Bo who came in with these huge expectations on his shoulders, going up against Yike, who of course had to replace Jankos, but also didn't have the same pedigree, didn't have the same kind of scary solo queue reputation, but has since won a split, is looking good, and is looking to further cement himself as a top jungler in the league.
Mid lane, it's Caps versus Perks. Can't say anything more about that hasn't been said already.
Brothers in arms, one MSI together. Best of one will determine the overreactions. Who's going to win Worlds, who's going to win the LEC, who's going to win MSI.
It's awesome all across the board. It's G2 Vitality.
Hello, besties, and welcome everyone to week 2 of the LEC 2023 Spring Split live from Berlin, Germany. The sun is shining, the weather is nice. Usually when you talk about it in Berlin, then it starts hailing.
Why are you
instantly.
saying anything?
I anti-jinxed the weather. That's what I did. Taxi's arriving as well. Astralis, of course, and the Mad Lions are entering the studio for our first game of the day. My name is Shox, and I'm joined by Ender and very special bestie, extra guest, Treats this weekend. It's been a while. Welcome, Eric.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been since Malmö, right? The last time I was on the desk, so excited to be back for some fun games with you guys.
I thought we only had you then because you're the only one who can pronounce Malmö, but I think you're useful.
Wait, can I try?
Yeah.
Malmö.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well.
What? No, I think that was pretty decent.
Eric, I know you've been making a lot of content. It's been awesome to see, but maybe not everyone is as familiar with your opinions about the LEC, so we sourced some tweets from Ping the Lobby on Twitter, and the first one is from Winter's Ward, saying, which LEC team has surprised you the most this year?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, thinking of the entire year, I guess maybe Vitality now, coming in with the upset. I think they were looking to have the same performance in winter, and now in spring they've just been going up and up. So probably Vitality, I would say, yeah.
That's a good one. I think it was probably fishing for the BDS with their Smurf content and everything. I know Nick is hanging out over at the BDS
He sent the
fan
tweet,
booth.
actually.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. He was looking for it, but you weren't going to give him that. It's so sad.
What have been your impressions overall of the new system, the new season setup, and the fact that things seem to be going so incredibly fast?
Yeah, the format is very cutthroat. Obviously, it feels like if you have one bad week, you can kind of just be out of the playoff contention immediately. So it's very scary for the teams, and they kind of feel like every game matters, which makes the viewing experience really good too.
It does. The Mad Lions also sent in a tweet. What is the best treat? I bet you never heard that one before.
I haven't, no, definitely.
You're at the LEC. There's only one right answer.
Yeah, I mean, apart from Kit Kat, I think
that was the right answer.
I wish I could say something like surströmming or some Swedish thing, but maybe like a nice cupcake, something like this. Yeah. Pretty nice.
No.
Caitlin would agree.
Yeah, true.
I'm like savory over sweet for snacks, personally.
I can go either way.
Same.
Cool. So, as we said already, things are going really fast. And after week 1, we've decided to have a look at some of the players' performances and give our verdict if they are Giga Chad or Giga Sag. So, let's start with the positive. Who have been the Chads?
The Chads? Let's start in the jungle with Jankos, absolute machine for Team Heretics. And I cannot say enough how impressed I've been, not just this week 1 last week, but also throughout winter. Jankos has been consistently able to find early game advantages. A lot of that has been punishing when his lanes have pushing waves, setting up for turret dives. He's always finding angles in the early game to set his team ahead.
Yeah, and then from the early game as well, I feel like his team fighting has been really good. So it does feel like he's kind of playing his screen correct, but his teammates are not pulling that much weight themselves, so he's been a big Giga Chad so far for sure.
And Treats, you used the jungle back in the day as well, and you can probably say a couple of words about the fact that if you're playing well as a jungler, but everything is falling apart around you, how difficult that must be.
Yeah, I mean, the jungler's job is kind of to secure the early game, and I think he's doing a fantastic job of that, and if his carries aren't carrying in fights, then there's not so much more he can do, right?
I would also say that, like, the transition from G2 having Caps as a mid laner that's always roaming around, now Ruby much more lane-locked mid laner. Jankos has to do a lot more on his own, finding those angles, so it's been fantastic to see him sort of step into his own, training wheels off, and this guy's been an absolute beast.
I mean, he's insane. He's timeless. He's a class act, and he's always going to perform, but we need to hope that Team Heretics as a whole can perform better as well. Speaking of a class act, Upset came back, Treats, last week, finally, and he's breaking records already.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knew that he was good, right? It was kind of just like, how good was he gonna be? He showed that he's pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, I mean, no surprises here that he's like already in conversation. I think Hansama and Mickey were like the reigning best bot lane last split. Now he's like, yeah, I put my name on the list. That's going to be an amazing matchup to see unfold. This has always been a player that's super, super versatile, right? He can play the lane dominant AD carries, like to pound you in the 2v2, but also super reliable in the late game team fights as well. It is almost impossible to find someone that can do everything as good as he can.
How is he slotted into Vitality? seamless, it seems like, right? Okay, they have great laners, but they didn't miss a beat whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it was very clear the role he was looking to fill with Neon stepping out, obviously. And I think that with the versatility that you speak of, Ender, as well, it's kind of like, what can he not do, right? Like, you can play towards him. He can also just farm and carry team fights later. So the versatility and obviously his experience as well is just making the team look so much scarier.
It's working really well. Another jungler, Markoon, is doing phenomenally. I think SK overall is doing very, very well, and he's been at the center of that for a while.
Yeah, another jungler that back in winter was also looking very strong. I was thinking of like the Elise is something that he really was able to have a huge impact throughout the early games. But even this game from last week, like he dove top lane, mid lane, tier 2, bot lane in the span of like 3 minutes on the Lee Sin. It's been really nice to see him sort of step up after the Excel days.
Yeah, I mean, the stability and the explosiveness that he brings is perfect for this SK squad, I think. I think in general they're very good at adapting to what the enemy does, and then Markoon kind of gives this X factor to the team, so he's been giga chatting it up for them so far.
I mean, he was also giga chatting it up often in Excel. Sometimes it was hit or miss, but do you feel like he's evolving as a player? Is he becoming a more complete player as you're seeing him play now?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. I think he's more consistent than he was in his Excel days, and then he still has this like Markoon flair, right, where he just kind of pops off. So that's been lovely to see.
It has indeed, and SK is putting up the numbers. But when we talk about the positive, unfortunately, we also need to talk about what hasn't been working that well, GigaSag. We need to talk about Fnatic top, Oscar Winnin, but I think we need to talk about it in the context of what's going on in this team.
I mean, honestly, this is just an impossible situation to be put in, right? Like, rookie player coming onto the LEC stage, and you're stepping into a team that looks dysfunctional throughout winter and now too, like haven't been able to find a win in 49 days. It's just absolutely nuts. And I think too, like his role has been a little bit up in the air as well. Played a couple of carries early on, then switched over to tank duty. Hasn't been finding any support from his teammates either, and is constantly been getting focused by the enemy team.
Yeah, for being just on the top lane as well by himself, being targeted by the enemy jungle, he feels a bit lonely up there, and obviously it's really hard for him. Obviously he's also done misplays. It's not like it's only up to the enemy jungle to take advantage of him. He's definitely had his fair shares of misplays, but it's been a sad start for him for sure.
Yeah, the Ornn Camille matchup as an example, like yeah, sure, eventually like in a side lane that matchup becomes completely unplayable, but early levels should not be dying in the 1 versus 1. But you have to imagine too, there's just so much pressure on him as well, stepping into Wonder's shoes, then also just the Fnatic fandom behind you as well, just begging for a win, begging for anything. This is not a good situation for any rookie to be placed in, and also sort of like the fear, I think, of a lot of rookie players joining a team that is not doing well, and the risk of what it can do for your career later on is really, really present. So I hope that he's able to find something over, at minimum, the next 2 weeks, and maybe turn things around for him and the rest of Fnatic.
Yeah, he's not going to die to that Ornn if he's playing it at home in solo queue, probably, but the stress is just huge. So let's see what Oscar and Fnatic can do. Let's talk about Koi as well, of whom we've had very high expectations for a very long time. Obviously got the title last year in Malmö, but the bot lane just isn't hitting the same treats.
Yeah, it isn't. I feel like they're just not on a good roll right now. It's not like they're completely sprinting the game down or anything like that. It's just like the impact they had in summer and in playoffs as well is just, it's night and day, right? Like right now, looks like nothing is working for them. They don't have a solid 2v2 combo that they can rely on, and it's just like they're not really finding their footing.
Yeah, they went from best bot to middling now, right? And I think that we saw something similar again during the BO1s in winter, where they looked a little bit not as on the same page. They weren't finding the advantages that they were in 2022, but that all turned around for them in the best of 3s, and they looked way more cohesive, and the rest of Koi stepped up as well. So I'm wondering maybe we get another glimpse of that, but it's a little bit disheartening to see the lack of consistency after they were on top of EU for all of last year.
And also you see that a lot of bot lanes around them are really stepping up. Of course, there's the upset story, but there's in general also like the SK bot lane in general, Crowny, all that. So you'd want them to step up to that occasion. I think the same thing maybe goes for the mad bot lane traits with Hilly and Carzzy, but specifically Hilly, who just hasn't been finding the impact.
Yeah, I mean, he's had 3 Hilly games in a row now, right? The flip hasn't landed on the correct side yet, and I think that when Mad are struggling, it's because of the bot lane struggling. I think when Carzzy and Hylissang kind of find their footing, they do better as a whole. And so far, it's not been the best start that they were hoping for sure.
Oh, that scoreline.
It's rough, 0-17. But if you don't love him at his worst, you can't love him at his best. Completely illegal to be a fair weather friend in that regard. Because for a guy like Hilly too, like he talks about it, his teammates will talk about it all the time, where it's like, okay, if we fall behind early, or maybe he sees in their draft they have very narrow win conditions, he's just going to look for a play, and if it doesn't work, he's not going to shy away. He's going to keep going. So that's where the death tolls continue to stack up, is him looking for plays. And honestly, I can't hate that mentality going through games, especially because I think some of the drafts from Mad Lions have been a little bit questionable and really backed them into a corner.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of sent it every game so far. I feel like they just have been behind from early game, right? And then, as you say, he just kind of looks for opportunities where they don't really exist just to make something happen. And that's kind of the Hilly special that we all know and love.
It came up like tails 3 times in a row. It has to come up heads. It's going to be an
just
insane
statistically speaking, it'll work out at some point.
Yeah, they're playing in the first game of the day versus Astralis, and Leader's return to the LEC has been great. So let's hear what he had to say on the latest episode of Euphoria.
That's my favorite podcast.
But what do you think are like the biggest changes that are from you now versus you in like 2019 or 2021? Like, what do you think? How do you view yourself now compared to then, either as a teammate or in game, and in terms of what you contribute? Is this just like you're exactly the same? It's just finally you're getting this opportunity that you've been waiting for.
I don't think I have changed much. I think I'm just better with people now than before, because 2019. People are different, right? Yeah. Some people can be hard to work with, and some can be easy to work with. Now I work with both easy and hard to work with people, and now I know what these people want, and I can easily know which type people are. Yeah. So I think I've improved in that sense, and I take the role that the team needs most of the time. If it's a leadership role, I'll take a leadership role. If they just want me to be a passenger... Leadership. If they want me to take a passenger role and just play my own game, focus on myself, other people want to talk, I can do that as well at the same time, But obviously, I'm going to chime in and say my ideas as well from here and there. But I think I'm smarter, I would say. I'm more smarter about the game and everyone. More smarter about each role. Because when you learn all the different roles and how they function and what should happen and what should not happen, as long as your teammates are actually listening to you without having any ego, because people can think, why is this guy talking about my lane? I played this lane for 5 years, you just seen someone play it, But if people listen to the ideas and actually are open to it, I think I can be smart about other lanes as well, because I played a lot of jungle, I played a lot of top lane as well, I played ADC, support is the only one that I haven't played, but I know what the mid laner wants from a support at the same time. So I think I've just gotten smarter about other roles and smarter about the game, I would say.
It's a lovely talk with Leader, and I think he's addressing a lot of what people had been questioning probably. It's the third time the charm for him. He previously spent time on Misfits and Vitality Ender, but I guess there were questions of how he's going to evolve, not only on the Rift, but also in terms of the team atmosphere. Yeah,
and it was nice to hear him sort of say that he leveled up as a player, also like out of game as well, communicating with the team and stuff, because I think there was always a lot of baggage accompanying Leader, not just like the performance on stage, but like, maybe had a bit of an attitude in solo queue, these types of things. Didn't necessarily get along super great with his teammates, but I think that has completely changed with him, just from how I've heard he's integrated into this Astralis roster, so it's great to hear it straight from his mouth too.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that also Astralis really looked for the type of mid laner that Leader is, so I think he also feels very welcomed in the team. They wanted someone aggressive that can kind of dictate the game through mid, and I think that's exactly what he brings to the table.
In terms of being a perfect fit for a team, I think you hit the nail on the head there, because the way he plays is just, both in the champions as well as the way he approaches the lane, you have to be around that mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, he's creating a black hole around mid, and he's in the center of it. He's grabbing everyone to mid. Top, jungle, support, you name it, for both teams. It's, as we see in this clip, it's just a fiesta around mid when he's playing the game.
Yeah, and when you play the champions the Leader does, it makes like mid lane just so much more volatile. So everyone wants to get involved around that lane, but just mechanically he's so gifted, and he's always been so good on these champions. Even back when he debuted with Misfits, he was playing a lot of these things. When he then got demoted to the RLs, continued to run those. Rise is something that has always stuck in my mind. While he's always been about the melee, all-in fighter sort champions, assassin type champions, the Rise is sort of that other card that he can show to show a little bit of more flexibility.
And that's been a question also forever, I feel like, with Leader, no matter where he's played. He says, yes, you can absolutely pop off. His Aurelia game last week was insane. The Akali will always be good. His Rise is also good. But is there enough in the toolbox to cover kind of all metas and all necessities for a team? Do you think so?
I mean, it's really hard to say, right? I think he definitely shines on the melee champs. He has played some ranged champs here and there, and I wouldn't say that he's not proficient on them.
No.
But I think the playstyle he has definitely benefits from him playing all these melee, engage, all-in types of champs.
I think it's going to be a similar conversation that you would have around like a Larson, for example, that's like, oh, we can always play the control mages, but the second he's on the melees, everyone like holds their breath, right? It's going to be a stigma that is carried around with him for a long time, and he's going to have to show and prove that it's wrong, but we've seen him on the range champion, just like Treats is saying. It's something he can definitely pilot.
And at one point, it becomes a boon, like you say, I think, because obviously he will be proficient on those as well. He's a mid laner. Also, by the way, they weren't going to shave their beards, he said, or Kobby said in an interview, until so that they wouldn't start losing, basically. But everyone did except for Leader. So
Good. Shave him. That's the meta.
Very exciting. And we have more exciting news because Frankie will be joining us this week as interviewer, and she's now standing by with Astralis' head coach, AOD. Take it away, Han.
Thank you very much, Shox. I'm so excited to be here. To be honest, I'm even more excited that Treats is with the analyst desk this weekend. And I'm really excited to hear from AOD because I'm not used to getting to hear you talking about what you're up to with Astralis. So first of all, can we talk about the state of the team at the moment? Because last time I was here in the summer, I feel like you guys were kind of that late game team. And now it's all about snowballing and a really aggressive early game. So what's the process been like of working with the team and shaping them to be ready for this split?
I think we just adapted well to the new player we signed, basically. So we signed Leader. We know exactly what he does and the champions he plays, and we just play around it and try to do our best with that.
What champions does he play? Because everyone's saying he's the melee man. I know we've seen some Aurelia, but there are some questions about the diversity of his champion pool.
I think it's pretty diverse, but of course I cannot divulge much. However, it has been showing up in practice, a lot of stuff, so we can trust it for sure.
A lot of stuff. Can you give me any kind of hints?
Full opposite of what people believe of him.
Okay, so we might see a mage today?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe. That's going to be really interesting. We'll talk about Mad Lions in a bit. Kobby is a bot laner that everyone is speaking about at the moment. He's been regarded as Mr. Consistency. As we're seeing him become more and more aggressive, are you ever concerned that he might lose some of the consistency he's known for?
No, I think usually ramps up pretty well throughout the season. I think maybe sometimes starts slow, but in general he's always there when you need him, and I think that's very good.
So what have you been doing as a coach then in terms of making sure that he does have the snowballing start that you want from him?
I think in general we like to start seasons pretty fast, like the off seasons rather, so we always train like maybe a week or two more than others, and I think that's usually how we approach it. I think of course with the new format and between the two splits it's a bit hard because we need to also give people time off, but in general this is how we approach it.
And how is the team spirit at the moment? I'm hearing a lot about how Leader's bringing up the mood, but it also sounds like towards the end of the last split when you were sent home by Mad, things got a bit tough.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think everyone was really sad, about the split, about our day-to-day and scrims and stuff. So yeah, things changed since Leader came. Of course, we had our break as well, so we have honeymoon effect and everything, and things are going really well. Leader is changing a lot.
So what do you do, though, as a coach? Because it can't all just fall on Leader to raise that spirit.
I would say I'm not exactly on the social sphere of things as much as he is. I think he's taking care of it by himself quite well, I would say. He has initiative, people follow him, the guys are starting to work out, go out together, all this kind of stuff, so it's very nice.
Do you join them?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, I'd love to be at that dinner table one day in the future. But right now, let's talk about your Mad Lions matchup. On Euphoria this week, Leader was saying that you guys are going to smash their mid-jungle. What do you think?
I think it's very possible, yes. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Okay, are you looking forward to it, Shox and the guys on the desk?
Thank you. You really grilled him. I like it. But yeah, he's saying fake news. It's not true. He plays everything we need him to. I can't talk about too much. Of course, he wouldn't say anything different. But I think that's something that happens often with, like, people will say, oh, you're just following, like, a Reddit narrative or a storyline or whatever. But you need to see it before you can believe it. That's all.
Players get profiled. It's absolutely true.
So do you. You're like, cringe lord. Not true.
Yeah, not true. I'm definitely not cringe, guys. Trust me. I can play range champions, too.
Anyways, we talked so much about Leader. Let's talk about their opponents, Mad Lions. We started the day off by talking about Hilly and how the bot lane has been underperforming, but I'd like to break that out a little bit and look at Kobby versus Carzzy, as well as Junghoon versus Hilly. Treats, where do you think the biggest differences lie, and why do you think Astralis bot lane has been getting more props as of late?
Yeah, I would also give Astralis bot a lot of props because I think that in general, Kobby has been, as AOD said as well, really consistent, but he's been consistently good. And I think that for me, he was on my top 3 All-Pro of last split as well. He's been just really consistently good. And Carzzy has been struggling a bit on the other hand, I would say. I think him and Hilly also just in the meta haven't really found their footing. They've played some Aphelios Thresh and they haven't looked that good, and they're kind of just like trying to gather their thoughts and kind of gather their meta read, and I think this week is a good test for them to see what level they're actually at.
Yeah, I think the Carzzy-Hilly duo looked really like dominant in the 2v2 in winter, especially like the Lucian Nami I remember from early on in the BO1s was really working out for them, and you had perma-prio, perma-control over the river. That's when they looked really, really solid. It hasn't been the same, and I think we saw some moments of the Hilly trying to make extra plays in the 2v2 that sort of backfired on them, whereas Kabe has just been the pillar of consistency for the entire year. Like, if you get to 3 items, this guy is going to do absurd damage in the team fight no matter what. You can always rely on it.
And it's cool to see, Treats, because he's been, you know, playing professionally for so long, but it does seem like he's gotten an extra kind of injection of energy due to maybe leader joining the roster and things being switched up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think before he was regarded as a consistent mid-tier AD carry, but now he's more like really good AD carry, top of the table as well. So I think that's really nice to see, and he's a lovely guy to have around the team as well.
It's awesome. It's all going pretty well for Astralis 2-1, and it's not dramatic for Mad. I think we just look at Mad through the lens of they have these high highs that they can reach. Hell, they just reached a final back in winter, right? And they're we're a little bit more harsh on them.
You know for a fact BO3 comes around, they're going to be okay, but it is a slow start for them. And I think maybe something that I wasn't picking up on in winter, but now I'm slightly noticing concerned about is the Niski champion pool, right? Because he played a million different champs in winter. We were praising him like the Niski champion Ocean. What can't this guy do? And then last week he busts out the Cho'Gath, Veigar, and Taliyah. And I think that he is a very good player and can play a lot of different champions, but I wonder if the way those more niche picks, like the Cho'Gath in particular, like integrate into a roster, if that's the look. If he doesn't have a mid lane champion with heavy prio or heavy playmaking, that's really what they use usually to enable Elyoya.
Yeah, and I think it's also not really on him piloting the champions bad. I think he can pilot all these champs completely fine. It's more what the team needs and what they require from him. And I think with him having a lot of push in mid lane, he kind of just wins every game. When he's unleashing Elyoya and they kind of just run around and kill everyone together, then they pop off. And when he's just on Cho'Gath farming under his tower, nothing is happening around the map. So I expect them to kind of go back to this pushing style for Niski this week and maybe have some more success as well.
Yeah, because I was going to wonder too, like, what happens in draft, right? When like 4th or 5th pick comes around and Niski's like, oh, like, is this just a really good lane matchup that he wants? Does it maybe disagree with some of the ideas the comp is trying to accomplish overall? Because that's definitely something that can arise. Like, I remember from like my time as a referee listening in on player comms, it would be like, you'd have like the ego pick or the pick for team. And sometimes when you pick for a lane, that can hurt what you're trying to accomplish as a team. But with only 30 seconds to make that choice, things can sometimes backfire or be a little bit abrupt. So there's not as much of a conversation. So I'm curious if they shift a little bit more in the BO1s to guarantee the wins, because let's not forget, you gotta get the wins in the BO1s to make to the BO3s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as well as that, I think it's just maybe they have success on it in scrims. Maybe he's winning every Cho'Gath game in scrims, and then he pulls out on stage and he's just farming for late game, right? So I think it's that factor as well they have to take into consideration. And I think he's also just known as a guy who likes to play a lot of different fun stuff. He likes to have fun on stage, he likes to laugh, likes to play new stuff. So I do agree though, they need some wins. They need some wins and they need them bad.
Look, when Elyoya is your jungler, just pick something with push and that can fight around mid. Like, Elyoya will find angles if you're there to back him up, and especially heading up against the leader duo that's like, yeah, we're gonna dumpster on this 2v2 mid jungle. We need some spice around
They're
mid.
for sure saying that right now, but it is interesting. Maybe we can explore it later around kind of like Elyoya, who has been at the center of this lineup and always of its successes. It might be a confidence hit that it hasn't been working out as it has. We do have another question for Treats though. What? Oh, okay, sorry. It disappeared from the prompter, but my producer told me it's a question. What is better, sparkling water or tap water?
Oh, is this a GB question? It might as well have been a GB question.
Come on.
I mean, obviously it's tap water. Sparkling water tastes like TV static. Like,
hard agree.
If you drink sparkling water, I don't know what to say. Like,
I get more thirsty if I'm drinking sparkling water.
Yeah. and it just
Sparkling
doesn't
water is
taste
sick.
good.
That's a great way to stay hydrated, right? It's so good you want to drink more because you're thirstier.
That's why you're weird,
It
champ
makes
Ender.
so much sense, guys.
No. It's like it's soda, but without the fun.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
but I don't drink
Perfect.
soda, so I need just a little bit of fun in my life.
Anyway, I don't know why we got off topic. It was because of Treats' questions. Anyways, he'll be checking your questions all day long. You can ask him things about any beverage you may like.
Or League of Legends. That would also be
That
good.
would be better. Hashtag ping the lobby. With that, though, it is time for our very first game of the weekend, the Stralas versus Mad Lions. Let's head over to these beautiful gentlemen.
That was a dramatic camera turn. Welcome to the Garden Desk. I'm QuickShot, joined by Kedril. Do you like sparkling water?
No, I hate it actually.
How long have you lived in Germany, though?
7 years.
So Berlin. Berlin, seriously, who likes sparkling water? Make some noise. Yeah, see, it's a local thing. If you live here long
Okay,
enough.
who prefers still water?